Joining me today, I have local singer, music teacher, composer Heidi Korte, who also has a brand new title to her name. She is now a published author. Thank you, Heidi, for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to talk about this.
Absolutely. So, first of all, tell us the title of your book and tell us a little bit about it.
This book is called On the Edge of Greatness: Removing Mental Obstacles That Kill Creativity. And this book has been 3 years coming. Um, I believe the Lord asked me to write it 3 years ago in 2020. A church leader sort of said, Heidi, it's time to write your book. And I had never considered myself to be an author. That's just not, I'm a musician, I'm a composer, I'm a teacher. These are the things that I would consider myself. But I was so sure that the Lord had said, write this book, that I was like, okay, God, here I go, right? So this book is sort of my niche. I, as a music teacher, deal a lot with the obstacles in the mind. And I think that God sends me the students that need the mind rearranging, just specifically because that's my niche. I don't know if I said that well, but there it is.
Fantastic.
So a lot of students come in and they're too scared to sing for me, or they cry every time they make a mistake, or they never want to share their gift with anyone, or they're super negative about their voice and their gifting. Like, the amount of things of the mind with like creative people is a lot. And after 10 years of teaching young creatives, I would say that like 80% of success in the arts is success in the mind. So that is what the
So
book is
good.
about.
So good. And I got to ask, if it's all right, do you have personal experience with this struggle in your mind?
Totally. I wasted an entire university degree. Um, $40,000. It was an expensive waste. I came to Winnipeg very used to being a small fish in a big pond. I was from a small town in Ontario. And coming out here, and things of the mind weren't ever talked about in music lessons. It was just, here's the skill to play this, here's the skill to sing this. No one ever taught me how to deal with comparison. How do I avoid comparing my voice to someone else's? How do I keep my eyes in my own lane? How do I handle rejection? Like, none of that was talked about in the 90s, or in my university degree. And in university, there were these practice rooms that, I think they have new ones now, but when I went to school, everyone could hear you. So all the classrooms doing their classwork could hear you practicing. And so I would sit there, be doing my classwork, and I'd hear someone crack on a high note, and I would laugh. I would be like, ha, like, that person doesn't have their high notes sorted out. And then when it would come time for me to go into the practice room, I would sit there, and I would sit there, and I'd have booked that practice room for that hour. And at the end of the hour, I would have left with no sound having been made. So,
Wow.
yeah, and that was a little bit of my singing degree. I sang as little as possible because I was too afraid to have someone hear flaws in my voice. I was too afraid to crack and have someone else in a math class laugh at hearing my voice crack. So I avoided singing as much as possible to
Wow.
present perfect. And I actually did overcome all this, but later, after my degree. So that degree, I'm thankful for it, but like, if there was a do-over, it would be that.
Absolutely. So, with students, do you sort of live this out then all the time when you're talking to them?
Yup. Well, it's so nice because the students that I've had for a number of years, it's all gone. They don't insult their craft anymore. They sing on the Instagram. They share. They, like, that is removed. But then for the first 2 years of lessons with me, often, but not always, sometimes a student will come in with no mental baggage, but almost always there's something in the way. And so I don't look for it. It just shows up, you know? Um, and what's neat about this book is that, when I started writing it, I asked my 36 students that year to write their story of the thing that they struggled with the most. So they have joined me in this book and have authentically written their own journeys, as well as other professionals across the artistic spectrum, like singers, dancers, actors, poets, authors. So my hope is that this book will just transform the minds of young creatives or old creatives. I had a mathematician who's in his late 30s read it, and he said, Heidi, this book changed how I am at work. I didn't realize that I went to work and saw everyone on my team as competition. And after reading your book, I see that they're my team. So,
Wow.
yeah, it's pretty cool.
You talk about the ugliness of comparison. Sort of sounds a little biblical to me. Is that intentional?
Yeah, in my book, I think I call comparison a joy robber. But I mean, there are so many other ones too, like, yeah, like rejection or anxiety or perfectionism, right? It's basically that voice in your head saying, you suck. There's something wrong with you. Some students, I had one student who said, Heidi, I will never be able to write a song. And it was actually because she felt like her words didn't have value and that she had nothing of value to say. And so whenever someone says, Heidi, I'll never be able to write a song, that's generally the lesson where I say, guess what we're doing this hour? And I leave them alone to write for an hour. And they have to have a completed song done. And she actually wrote this amazing song in the hour that she was really proud of. So I just think there are so many joy robbers in our, and most of them, if not all of them, I would say all of them are in the mind.
Yeah, so good. Are you going to be having a book launch? Is this now available? Tell us a little bit more about how people can get in contact with your book.
Yes, my book is available online to order right now. You can order it on the Friesen Press website. If you just search Friesen Press and you go into their bookstore, it is there for sale right now. I am going to be having copies in the city probably within 2 weeks.
Heidi, is there anything else that you wanted to share with us today about your book? Maybe who is this book for? What do you hope for it?
I hope that this book transforms the artistic culture across the globe. My hopes are really quite large for it. I wrote it with the intent of it being something that fits in secular culture and in Christian culture. So there are hints of Christianity in the book, like God-given talent. But in general, I try to make it so that someone who really is anti-Christian could read it and get the same concepts and have the same internal transformation. So my hope is that it'll just transform the culture across the world.
Thank you so much for taking the time talking about your book, and we're going to let people know where to get it. Really appreciate your time and your heart behind this, Heidi. Thank you.
Thank you.